Mr. Bond. Pride goeth before a fall.
Hey everybody, Reef Girl here. This is a story of what happens when you think everything's going really, really well and you stop paying attention or you make a dumb mistake. Well, I made more than one dumb mistake, and the result was this tank now has issues. On January 7th, I published an update where I was really happy with the progress this tank had made. I felt like I had turned a corner. Things were going really well. It wasn't 2 days later that when I was doing my testing, I learned that my potassium was sky high. It was 450, and I do dose potassium in this tank very low levels daily because my salt mix is deficient for potassium, I discovered. So I checked my dosing pump, and it turned out that instead of 8 milliliters once a day, I dosed 80 milliliters. And the strange thing was that I had noticed one of my dosing pumps was running for a very, very long time. And I came over and checked, and sure enough, that's what I found. So that was problem number one. The second issue I found was that my magnesium was really high, even though I had decided I was going to get it back down to around 1400, which is where I like to keep it. It was testing at over 1500, and of course with the Salifert test, that's as high as you can go. Anything beyond that is simply a guess. I discontinued dosing the magnesium. I took that pump offline for about a week and tested again, and sure enough, it was high again, and I didn't know what was going on. At the same time, my calcium had dropped to 360. I could not get it high enough. It stayed at 360. I was puzzled about this. I thought, what on earth is going on here? So I got out my bottle of Nano Code A and took a look at it. And there I found my problem. My problem was that Nano Code A is one part of a two-part dosing solution, and I was completely unaware that it also contains magnesium. It's calcium and magnesium. I use the Brightwell stuff. The reason I got Nano Code A was for the calcium, not the magnesium. So I was effectively double dosing magnesium. Why was my calcium so low? I don't know. I have no clue why I could not get that calcium to go up. It just stuck at around 360. So I stopped using the Nano Code A. So if it wasn't enough that I had sky-high potassium, dangerously high actually, high magnesium, low calcium, the next thing was high alkalinity. Over 10. This is way higher than I like to keep it. So I immediately cut off the dosing of alkalinity to try and get that under control. So besides having wildly crazy parameters, I suddenly noticed there was white slime everywhere. And the first place I noticed this was in my filter pad. It would swell right up. It didn't look dirty, but it was completely clogged. So I checked into it, opened it up, peeled it apart, and it was full of the grossest white slime you can imagine. Where did the white slime come from? I have no idea. I have a bunch of theories, but then I had to do something about all of this and clean stuff up. So noticing the white slime, I thought right away I have to do something to get it off my coral. So I decided to try some microbubble scrubbing again, but this time I used my J-bow and brought it up close to the surface to where it was drawing air. So for 2 or 3 nights in a row, I ran the microbubbles. So I think the microbubbles did a good job getting slime off the corals. And over the several days that I did this, my intention was to do it really intensely for short periods of time, simply to get the slime off wherever I could, corals, rocks, anywhere in the tank that it might be residing. There was still a lot of manual removal that I did with toothbrushes and other brushes and algae scrapers. I was cleaning the glass every day at this point and getting slime off. The slime was going down the overflow into the filter pad, and I was pulling it out sometimes twice a day. So it was moving. So today is January the 29th, and today I'm going to be taking apart and cleaning the entire skimmer assembly, the pump, all of the chambers, the piping, the whole deal. I already cleaned the return pump and the return pipe, so we're going to be taking off the upper section of the return pipe and cleaning that as well. And we'll see if this makes a difference. I've spent the entire week rebalancing all of the flows and trying to keep the display tank at the right level, the return pump at the right level, and I'm constantly fiddling with it because it's changing. So I recorded the cleaning of the return pump just to show you how disgusting it was. First of all, we have to remove that pipe by unscrewing it right there. It was designed specifically this way so that it would be very easy to remove the pump for maintenance. So to get ready, we lift up the overflow pipe so the water stops, and then wait a couple seconds, turn off the pump, and then go around to the other side and lift up the return line so that it can't siphon water back down into the sump. And now we're ready to pull the pump. So here it is pulled out of the tank, and it's pretty cruddy. Lots of little white worms, and it obviously needs a very good cleaning. Okay, so I think I have my answer as to why there was restricted flow from this pump. It is really gross. So now I'm going to clean it. And because you need the right tools for the job, here's my Happy Face scrubby brush, my nice good grip stiff bristle brush, gets in small spaces, toothbrush, bottle brush, and of course another scrubby brush with a scraper on the back. So while you watch me cleaning the pump at high speed, let me tell you the other issue that happened, and that is with my dosing pump. All the time I was assuming the calcium was at low levels and that I needed to increase the amount I was dosing to try and get them elevated. I didn't even think to check that my dosing pump was working properly. And I found two issues. The first issue was that there was a buildup of calcium on the end of the hose where it dripped into the tank. And it was quite a substantial buildup to where it blocked probably 2/3 of the amount of liquid that could come out of the end of the hose. It just popped right off. It was no problem. It was like a little plug. So I was able to clear that. I pinched the hose all along its length just in case there was any more buildup inside the hose, but I didn't feel any crystals or any thickened areas. So I'm fairly confident the hose itself was not plugged. When I checked the dosing pump to try and run it manually to see what was coming out of it, I could not get anything more than very, very small droplets to come out. So it was clear there was an issue with the dosing pump head itself. Perhaps it was back pressure from the plug at the end that caused a problem. I have no idea. So I changed the pump heads from pump 4 to pump 3. Pump 3 had been where I was dosing magnesium, and of course I wasn't doing that anymore. So I switched the hoses over so that I could dose the calcium from pump 3. I got it all set up, and now it's dosing proper amounts. I had the calcium levels all the way up to 29 milliliters of my solution 6 times a day. Last June, I was dosing 12 milliliters of a more dilute solution 6 times a day. That tells you how crazy this was. I didn't understand why my 29 milliliters of solution 6 times a day was not increasing my calcium. Well, now I know it's because it wasn't coming out of the pump at the proper level. So I set things up so that I'm now dosing back to my levels of last June, actually a little higher than that. And it's also a more concentrated solution in the hope that I can slowly raise the calcium over the next little while, because it definitely can't stay down at around 365, 370 for a long period of time, or things are really going to start to suffer in here. So all of these issues combined, and talk about hubris. All of the things that I know, all of the things that I do, and a basic mechanical issue contributed largely to this problem. So high magnesium because of the wrong chemical used. Once I fixed that problem, couldn't get the calcium to go up because of a mechanical failure. So it was like a jackpot of things that could go wrong. Like if it could go wrong, it went wrong. And I say this because hubris comes into play here, to where I was thinking, oh yeah, you know, the level's down, I'll just increase the dose, and wasn't good enough. So this is an entire spectrum of problems that I had, and finally in the last week or so, today's January 29th, and in the last week or so, it's starting to turn around. While the pump was out, took the opportunity to clean up a lot of this horrid crud from the return pump chamber. It's hard to reach when the pump is in there. And it turned out I took out about a gallon of water out of here while removing all of that gunk. And I got 90% of it. There's still a little bit here, but it's loose, and it will travel back into the tank, of course, through the return pump and get skimmed out at the other end eventually. So let's get this pump put back in place and get this baby started. Okay, moment of truth. We're going to push the return down so that it doesn't splash all over the place. Push the overflow back so the water can start flowing down, and turn on the pump. And there she blows. Just checking, nothing's leaking. It's all looking good. So I think we survived. So today I finally have time to tackle the skimmer. A few days ago it was the return pump, and although it did help with things, it really didn't do the job. I started looking at the skimmer and I noticed that there was white slime in the pipes in the chamber. You can see there's white slime all over the cord on this power head. That's coming out of the tank. I'm going to be cleaning that once I'm done with the skimmer. I am happy to say the parameters are getting back to normal. I have potassium of 410, magnesium of 1450, alkalinity of 9.4, and that's starting to get closer to where I want them. The only exception is the calcium. It's only at 370, so I'm still working on getting the dosing where it needs to be. I'm using the Nano Reef calcium, and what the bottle says is that it's meant to maintain calcium at certain levels, so I'm still working on that. But time to pull the skimmer. And so here we have the skimmer, and it looks pretty disgusting. You can't see the white slime that's everywhere when you look at it, because of course it kind of floats out from the body of the skimmer in the water where it's attached. When you do look down this pipe though, right to the bottom, you can see blobs of the stuff. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to clean it up. And here's how much water is coming out of the overflow, or should I say not coming out of the overflow. There's a blockage somewhere. Just a little sample of the slime that I pulled out of the skimmer chamber after cleaning the pipes. It is disgusting. Not only was there slime in the pipes, take a look at this bit of disgustingness. This was plugging this little nozzle that's at the end of my overflow leading to the tank. This is so gross, I can't even tell you. So I spared you all the jazz of me taking apart the pump and cleaning it, and here is what the skimmer looks like all cleaned up and back in the tank. Things are running, we're all good to go. It looks much, much cleaner. I pretty much completely emptied this first chamber and got a lot of horrible white slime out of there. Did some other siphoning, and it's much better. The display tank is looking good. The flow is where it needs to be now. It's balanced again, and the surface agitation on the top of the tank from the return is looking much more like it used to. So I feel as if the issues with the pipes, with cleaning them out, really did help with the problem. So now it's just a matter of monitoring it over the next little while, try my best to get that calcium where it needs to be, get the alkalinity back down to around 8.4, and one thing I will be doing is cleaning out the end of this overflow pipe, that little black nozzle, because I can't even tell you how gross that was. So my experience with Hubris has taught me a lot, and I really hope all of this never happens again, but there are no guarantees in this hobby, as I'm sure you all know.